Welcome back to the Friday Night 360 AZ preview show. I'm Jordan Ham alongside Haley Stasiak, and we're going to have AIA Executive Director David Hines on now. Mr. Hines, thanks so much for joining us.
You bet. Appreciate the opportunity.
So I know you've been on the job the first couple of months. How's it been going for you so far?
The job has been great. A little busier than I thought. Good busy, but there's a lot of meetings that I've been able to go to, a lot of people that I've been able to meet to really work with our association, so it's been a real positive experience.
Talking a little bit of football now, there's a lot of talent around the state, and we are seeing some great football. What are your thoughts on the season so far?
You're absolutely right. Great competition. I was looking at each of our rankings that have just come out at each of the conference levels, and we have some great dogfights that are going to take place over the next 5 weeks as we get down towards the playoffs. Each conference has 4, 5, 6 teams that so far have been playing really well, and as they get into region play, things will shuffle out a little bit, but I think we're going to have state tournaments that are going to be very competitive.
There's been a lot of discussion on the locations of the 4A through 6A state championships and ultimately deciding on Arizona Stadium. Obviously, it's a little more difficult this year than maybe in years past, but what was that process like to finally land on Arizona Stadium as the venue for those state championship games?
That's a great question. We're a little venue challenged at the AIA. We don't own our own facilities. We work with a lot of entities, and this just happened to be a year that the Phoenix Cardinals have 3 home games in a row right during our playoff time, so they were unavailable. ASU is on the 4th year of their construction cycle, so they weren't available. We love our universities and their help. U of A has a new athletic director, a new president, and they were discussing some work on their stadium, but working with architects, that will happen, but we're going to be able to get in on December 2nd to play all 3 of those games there. So we're real excited that we have a great venue. We're promoting that as much as we can to let everybody know that that's where it's going to be, make plans to be there, and I think we're going to have some terrific games.
What's the biggest pro and the biggest con of having the game at Arizona Stadium?
Well, the pro is it's a tremendous facility. And the other thing is we actually have some Tucson teams that are very competitive, which is going to be helpful because there's a good chance that we have some Tucson teams that could get into the finals, which will really help. Obviously, there isn't a real negative other than we could have several Valley teams, but to be real honest, we're an hour and a half from Tucson, so in reality, we have a lot of teams in our state and schools that travel 4 or 5 hours to get to games. An hour and a half is not really a real negative. Obviously, we like to use as many different facilities as possible. We do like to include different parts of the state, but the majority of the membership prefers to go to a central location for most things just because of our state size and the ability to get to the center of the state where people only have to go halfway as opposed to all the way from the north to the south or from the south to the north.
What's the biggest challenge facing the AIA currently?
Well, transfers are always an issue. There's choices that are made, and sometimes families don't understand all of the transfer rules, and so sometimes if they make more than one transfer, then it puts those students in jeopardy of some eligibility. Safety. Safety for our kids from sports. Obviously, concussions have been talked about a lot. There's a lot of work being done, and education. I think our kids, our parents, our coaches are much more in tune to that. Sometimes in these sports that are contact or collision sports, some of those will take place, but to get kids treated right away is very, very, very important. Heat. We're in a state with heat's an issue, especially in the fall. The education of heat acclimatization and understanding lots of water, be smart, modify practice. Those things are always really important, and we try to get that out. But the biggest challenge is with the turnover of coaches and athletic directors every year. We have to re-educate and catch up some of the new coaches and athletic directors on all the policies and rules that we have, so that everybody is operating on the same page.
This is a high school football show, but just going a little bit broader, just overall, how has the fall sports been going for you, aside from the gridiron so far?
Really good. I've been able to get out and see some volleyball. Cross country is going well. Golf's going well. Golf's about ready to, with all the overseeding, they're always challenged to find courses, kind of on a rotating basis that are open. But our swimming is going along well. We're really pretty much in the loop of, from now to the end of our season will be a lot of invitationals where these kids are qualifying for the state meet. But we have kids that are performing very, very well across the state, and anybody that has an opportunity to get out and see the kids compete, it's a treat.
Thanks so much for joining us, and good luck this rest of the year.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.
That was David Hines, AIA Executive Director. A lot of interesting points there. We kind of wanted to take a step back, look at the broad strokes of the football season and the fall sports as a whole. And specifically, I think with the Arizona Stadium decision, like he said, the AIA was pretty handcuffed in where they could go. There weren't a lot of locations here in the valley that could have been used. I know that some people were getting a little creative with maybe using the Phoenix Rising Stadium, and other ideas had been floated out like that. But I think that there's a lot of talk that's been happening with Arizona Stadium and having to make that trip down. But like he said, in the grand scheme of things, it's an hour and a half. A lot of these schools, specifically the smaller schools, they have strong programs up north that have to come down to the valley to play in their state championship. So it's a similar situation with that. And the past couple of years, they have had I know that the 4A state championship has been down there a couple times. Desert Edge won there, Saguaro won there as well. What was your biggest takeaway from what he said?
I thought it was really interesting, all the challenges that he mentioned with, he named everything, the transfer eligibility stuff. That is something that I understand a lot of people aren't clear on, and there's always confusion surrounding all of that. And then just the heat, combating the heat and making sure with injury protocol, and even the re-education of all the coaches and ADs. We saw lots of turnover in the offseason. We talked a lot about that on AZ Audibles too. So I think just all the different aspects that go into making sure that these kids are staying healthy, that they are staying uninjured, and that the coaching staffs are educated and able to make these programs successful. Definitely,
and an interesting point, with the heat. And everything like that. We talked to a couple of coaching staffs in the offseason, and they said, obviously they weren't downplaying concussions and that sort of issue, because obviously that's a huge thing that's plaguing football as a whole at every level right now, and the education of that. But specifically in this state, they say we see so many more heat-related instances than potentially concussions, and those in some cases could be even tougher to come back from. So definitely the education certainly has to be there. It sounds like they are definitely taking the steps to go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. On the other side, we have our game previews. A lot of really good games, some on Thursday, some on Friday. That's coming up on the Friday Night 360 AZ preview show.